I would now like to show you how to purl and to twist purl. So I have placed my stitches in two different ways on the needle. You can see when I pull them apart like this that the ones on the right side here, they angle from right and towards the left, and these they angle from the left and towards the right. And these are the two ways that your stitches can sit on the needle, so I'm going to show you both ways. So I slip the first stitch, and when I purl, the stitches that go from right and towards the left, I go to the tip of my index finger and behind the yarn, and I stick my needle through the stitch from right and towards the left, like this. And when I do, you see I can open the stitch up to a big square. And then I go back behind the yarn. And now you can see that the yarn goes between my two needles. And I can bring the yarn through the stitch and off the needle. So again, I begin here at the tip of my index finger, move behind the yarn, through the stitch from right to left to pick it up, go back where I came from, behind the yarn, so that the yarn places itself here on top of my stitch between my needles, bring it through the stitch and off the needle. And I will continue until I get to the point where I have placed my stitches the opposite way. Here they angle from left and towards the right. I begin the same way at the tip of my index finger and move behind the yarn, but I go here between the first and second stitch, and I stick my needle through from left and towards the right. Back behind the yarn. Now it looks the same. And you can now see that when I pick up the stitch from, you can say from underneath and up, now it opens up the same way as they did here. If I did the opposite and went from the right and towards the left, as I did when they angled the other way, you see that it will twist and form a triangle instead. So, and that is the next thing I want to show you, is how to twist purl. And I will do the same, and I will show you with the stitches angled both ways on the needle as I did now. Now I will show the twist purl, and again I have placed my stitches angling on this side from left and towards right, and on this side from right and towards left. And just slip the first stitch. When I twist purl the stitches that angles from left and towards right, I go the technique is mostly as I showed you before when I showed the purl stitch. I go behind the yarn, but now I go from the right and towards left, so that when I pull the stitch it does not open to a square but to a triangle, and you can see that it is twisted at the bottom. And then I just make my purl stitch, and again and I will continue until I reach the point where I have angled my stitches the opposite way. This will be easy noticeable because here when I go from right and towards left I make the big square, so not twisted. Then I will instead, I begin the same way behind my yarn, but I will go on this side, I will go between these two stitches and from the left moving towards the right through the stitch, and there you can see it makes the triangle, and then I just purl the same way. So up through the stitch and purl, and I will continue until I have reached the end of my needle. It's a little bit more tricky to pick up the yarn when I twist because it becomes a bit tighter. And here, let's just turn it and you can see it, that here I have not, here's stitches that are not twisted, and here, there you can see that here I have one stitch where it is twisted, the stitch closes and you get small gaps on each side. And if I go further down, here it is not twisted, and there you can see that I get both the small gaps in the side and here in between. So this will make a bit tighter result, and you can also see here it looks a bit different.